So Josh, our CEO, is going to explain VRF. He's going to describe the live draw. Josh, are you ready? Do you want me to give you a little bit more time?
No, I'm ready. I'm ready. I have this screen ready to
All right.
record. I can't show you guys the video at the moment, but I will follow up with the video or at least screenshots. So Supra obviously is a next generation chain. And over 2 years ago, we were like, what could we do here to excite folks? And we were like, you know what? There's a really great car called Supra, Toyota Supra. Why don't we give one away? And that it's surreal to me because it's been a long time. Actually, I think it was over 2 years. I think it's 2 years and 3 months. And we're at this stage today, and just is not exactly how I imagined it, but I would never trade this sense of reality right now with what I imagined. In fact, we hit our goals. We hit originally back in the day, we were like, man, it would be so great if we can hit 500,000, I'm sorry, 50,000 KYC users. And then the thing is, we hit that in a matter of, I think, 40 days. They were like, oh, we really, this works. So we expanded it to 500,000 people that we actually KYC'd. And we ran 75 missions. These missions are educating folks on Web3, distributed systems, cryptography, and Super Stack, which includes layer one smart contract platform, native Oracle price sheets, and on-chain randomness, as well as automation, crossing communication. But on-chain randomness is our own VRF that we designed that's cryptographically secure. That's what's going to be used to select the winner of this Toyota Supra giveaway. Now, why is randomness important? In games of chance, with blockchains, poker, blackjack, many use cases, even just matching up different players against each other, even randomness is utilized in like randomizing, what do you call it, scenery in games. There's many use cases where randomization is enables new use cases and enables new functionality. Now, blockchains, remember, are deterministic closed loop systems. They don't traditionally have on-chain randomness. And part of the idea behind Super, as we discussed at the beginning of this space, was around the tribes and clans architecture. We knew early that, excuse me, we knew early that in order to randomize the nodes, we need to have a high source of entropy and unpredictability and unbiasability and something that basically a human cannot control. Now, back in those naive days in late 2017, we're like, okay, a layer one needs oracles because we need randomness to shuffle the nodes into different configurations. How do we get randomness on chain? And basically, we were like, oh, we got to vertically integrate oracles. So we need oracles to, it's funny, but basically we were thinking, let's use oracles to sample information from different stock markets and FX and weather data. Basically, any system that a single person cannot control, and then merge that data together to create output. So that was like the most naive version of on-chain randomness that we were designing. And it was very interesting. Actually, we created some very interesting RNGs, but they were not necessarily VRFs, verifiable random functions, which we designed today, or dVRFs, decentralized verifiable random functions. Long story short, there's a little bit of the story here, but this pathway towards to understand like how to bring on-chain randomness, is actually among one of the first reasons why I reached out to Dr. Anakin Kate. So Dr. Anakin Kate, the inventor of KZG commitments that's utilized in Ethereum, Dank sharding, as well as in DA. The K Kate, if you meet him, please say Kate, not Kate. But long story short, he was gracious enough to respond to a cold email that John and I sent back in like 2019, because we knew that threshold cryptography was basically the way to solve on-chain randomness. But in order to do threshold signatures, we needed to perform what's called DKG, distributed key generation. And Dr. Kate had published a paper called Distributed Key Generation in the Wild. And yeah, we reached out to him knowing that a DKG is necessary for threshold signatures, and that threshold signatures, as long as a single honest node in the threshold, or let's just call it 51%, as long as you have a single honest node present, one honest node, everyone else up to 51%, up to 50% can be colluding. But if you have this one honest actor, then the whole outcome is unpredictable, but it's also verifiable on chain, and it's also unbiasable. So this is really interesting primitive. And we asked Dr. Kate beyond dVRF, we asked him about his possibility to create what's called nested DKG. We wanted to do DKG on the subcommunity level, or what we call clans, and have a threshold of clans reach DKG for a tribe level signature. And these brilliant folks, what they love more than ever is two things. It's basically a really cool idea to work on that may actually, the second point is that actually may have real world utility, right? That was the story of how we met Dr. Kate, Super TA, with our other brilliant researchers. I'm surrounded by really amazing people. And even on this spaces, they're like constantly surrounded by people that I can learn from, which is amazing. And this is such a privilege. And I have to, it actually is a dream come true because back in the day, when I was alone rhyming through white papers, not understanding this stuff, it was so frustrating. And now I have a position where I can ask literally some of the smartest people in space, that many of them are on our team, but also that are folks that exist in other ecosystems. And yet there's this collaborative nature. All right, so back to the topic at hand. We have gone through Project Blastoff, 75 weekly missions. It's a year and a half. And these missions, of course, it took us 6 months to develop it in the first place to launch it. And then we have KYC 500,000 people through Onfido. Onfido is a Web2 company that verifies real world identities with passports, with IDs, with beyond liveness human detecting. They are really rigorous. And so our numbers are real. And one of the kind of incentives, of course, we had, many of you folks don't know this, but Supra had brought to market actually probably the first point system before Blast. And we have star points as many, and these increase your probability of getting selected to win our various prizes. And now today we're providing the grand giveaway, which is the Toyota Supra. Now, the way this works is that every participant that has been playing our games or engaging our missions, they are accumulating star points, but they're also accumulating super tokens through our gamified learn and earn program. That's different, but the more star points you have, you could earn star points by referring folks. So we had this viral loop built into our platform that went viral, and we did not pay for this. Like, we paid for KYC, that was expensive, sure, but we didn't do any advertising for this. This had a life of its own. And it's because we had a referral program where you can stack up both super tokens as well as star points. Now, star points, every individual, I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but it's a lot. It's into the millions of star points generated at this stage. Everyone that owns a star point is an entry into the giveaway, right? So I'm about to, and I have this video here up. I'm about to collect the winner or get the winner. It's going to generate the on-chain randomness through our decentralized verifiable random function. And by the way, many of our designs, including our dVRF, has been accepted to top practice type of attendees. So this is not just me saying, oh, by the way, this is really great. It's actually been peer reviewed. And we focus on three things. We focus on security, latency, and gas. And gas is important because if you have games that require and consume a lot of randomness, it has to be economically feasible. So we have our own framework around that. I'm about to click on Get Winner. Yeah, I know you guys can't see this right now, and I'll show the video soon.
Just before you announce the winner, give me the moment you have the name
See,
or the user ID, and I'll give a drum roll for you.
okay, you got it. So we're going to send the request to the network. The network's going to run the VRF protocol, and it's going to output an unpredictable but cryptographically secure and on-chain verifiable outcome. And then this is going to be utilized as a seed to parse through all the accounts that have star points, and then we're going to select a winner. It'll take a couple of seconds here because the database is pretty large, and there's millions of entries. But here we go, and man, this someone's going to literally win a Supra, Toyota Supra. And by the way, I personally, and this will be a team decision, I personally don't want to give you super tokens or cash. I want you to take the car. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and click it. Let's let it run. It's loading right now. It's like another 10, 15 seconds here. You might have to do that a couple more times. I'll let you know.
I think so. Let's see this one. What is...
Okay, that hurts my ears. All right. Oh, wow. We got it. We got a winner. Now you can go ahead and do it. All right. I can't believe we have selected me as a winner. He's incredible. No, I'm just kidding. Of course
No,
not.
you are kidding.
This VRF is incredible. It's so accurate. It literally gave the output I programmed it for. No, I'm just kidding. That's a very bad joke. No, this is completely random, and we have a winner here. And I'm going to start with the user ID. Okay, it's 1890 95672. And the winner name, I'm just going to spell this out because I'll pronounce it wrong. It's Nguyen Van Ha. So NGUYENBANHA. So congratulations to you. You must be from Vietnam, perhaps. We're going to bring you a car, man. So congratulations. You did it.
That's not a Supra's horn, that's for sure. Man, that's incredible.
Yeah, congratulations. You won. After all these participants and everything, you won the car. And this is, I hope you love it.
So that his name, do you think is or her name could be Nguyen?
Like, I think they pronounce it Nguyen Van Ha. So yeah, NGUYENVANHA. And I'll get this footage to you guys soon. Let me take a screenshot of this as well. I've been recording this. Here you go. Yeah, we originally wanted to do a whole video to show everyone the winner, but we also wanted to do next pieces. But congratulations, you won. Drive safe, of course, always safety first.
Okay.
We did it. So yeah, James,
Wow.
yeah.
Come on, that's amazing. Nguyen Van Ha, you are the winner of a Toyota Supra, the latest Toyota Supra. There's a couple of iterations of it. It's the latest one. How it's going to get to you, I'm going to leave that up to our administrative team because that's going to be fun. But we can't wait to hear from you. We'll do an interview with you. I hope you're on here. If you could DM me, James Bond Sama. We'd love to maybe have a chat with you. We can find your Twitter username as well and have a quick chat to you. But man, Nguyen Van Ha, user ID 1895672. That's all going to be verified. And of course, Josh did screen record that. We'll make a YouTube video out of this. And it's just incredible. We have given away a Toyota Supra as part of Supra's big launch, which is happening imminently. And that brings us perfectly into the very final segment, Josh. So, here we go, man. It's been a long day for you. And I know that you're going to be on Binance's YouTube channel shortly as well. So it doesn't stop, but you're going to be discussing developer freedom right now with Justin of Cyber Capital. Justin is with us now. Justin, of course, is the founder and CIO of Cyber Capital, which is Europe's oldest cryptocurrency fund. You can check him out. He's Justin_Bonds. That's not bonds as in bond, but BONS, Justin_Bonds. Check him out. Justin, welcome to this Super X Space, our Mega X Space. And I'm going to hand over to you, man. Welcome to our X Space, to all of our users listening in. Josh and Justin, over to you guys for the final segment.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I've been loving what I've been hearing here so far. And obviously just exciting that you guys are giving away Toyota Supras. That's fun. Yeah, so I'm here. And obviously I've been a big advocate for integrated scaling or monolithic scaling, or basically just scaling, as I like to say. And I've been screaming that off the rooftop ever since the block size debates, I think. Whenever from Bitcoin not scaling and then to Ethereum not scaling, it's been quite the road. And now we really need something that does it right. And that's why I'm also really excited to be here and to talk about why that's so important.
Justin, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. You know how many times we're like, yo, look what Justin said. Yeah, we totally agree with that. Let's share it with our team. Because we're just aligned philosophically. And yeah, bottom line is, the thing I respect about you is that there's two things, actually. One is that I think you're philosophically directionally correct. The other is that you have shown intellectual humility when you're able to change your mind. I remember maybe once upon a time you weren't a fan of Smarter, but then you were more recently able to talk about its benefits, like scaling hardware and bandwidth and compute, and that these can make blockchains more scalable. And also, you're doing something that's very brave, which is talking about Ethereum in a way that is, in my opinion, actually very pragmatic. And yeah, I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. No, that's very flattering, especially coming from someone like yourself. You're obviously very capable in terms of what you've built here, and was very impressive. Actually, when we first looked at Supra, and I want to touch on Ethereum and that history a bit as well, but yeah, actually, I'm going to touch on that first. Look, I think for me, I've had a long history of changing my mind. I think people forget that back in 2013, I was actually a really big Bitcoin supporter, and that I always believed in this idea of peer-to-peer electronic cash. I think that's really what Bitcoin set out to do, but I think failed to achieve. So when Bitcoin pivoted and didn't scale, I had to go from supporter to critic, as I am till this day as well. The fund I manage hasn't held any Bitcoin since 2017, right? And that was a lot more controversial back then than it is today. And then I became a big supporter of Ethereum. Obviously, I think when Bitcoin wasn't scaling and Ethereum was promising that they would give us sharding, I think people also forget that, right? Like Ethereum promised us sharding for years and years, 64 shards, a beacon chain, right? That's what I signed up for. So when they pivoted away from that vision again, I had to turn against Ethereum as well. So I think by 23 or even late 22, I actually became a Ethereum critic.
Well, sorry to interrupt. I do gotta mention, it was absolutely more insane than that. They were gonna, first of all, starting, it was probably better than Layer 2 strategy, but they were doing 1,064 shards or something like this. It wasn't 64, it was 1,064 in the design, which is like, why? You know what I mean? So it is. I just want to point that out that actually we started this call talking about Ethereum, talking about how Ethereum had originally designed itself from first work. They're going to go to a sharded proof of stake protocol, as you just mentioned, right? But their design honestly was pretty bad back then, and I don't know what to say about the layer 2s except I don't like it. But yeah, please.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. And I think it was initially 1,024, and then they downscaled it to 64, if I remember correctly,
Okay.
and then they abandoned it completely. But you're right; it's actually good that you remembered that. And I think they had this conceptually, they were correct, right? Like sharding makes sense. That's how you can scale a system, right? You scale a system by dividing up the work between different groupings of machines, to put it a different way, right? And that's how you can actually scale a system and preserve decentralization, right? There is a finite limit to what you can do within a single quote unquote chain, right? But if you tie a bunch of chains together in a way, then that creates this, what I like to call a coherent whole. And that speaks to the experience as well of using such a blockchain, which I think is really important. I think what Ethereum has done is, with the L2 scaling roadmap, I just think is absolutely atrocious, right? So obviously when Ethereum went that route, which to me was really just a repetition of what happened in Bitcoin's history, that's how I went from Ethereum being the largest investment in my fund to not having any Ethereum at all. And I went from being the largest Solana critic to actually being one of the largest investments in the fund I manage today as well. So I think things move so fast in cryptocurrency. And to Solana's credit, if you look at my old critique, almost all of the things I covered in that have been addressed and have been fixed. So credit's due there in terms of the work they've done. But a purely parallel system, a non-sharded system like Solana, it does have an upper bound. I would say it's probably around 10 to 20,000 today, if you're looking at one-to-one transactions, basic value transfers.
And that's a good point, because you're talking about just basic value transfers, not even referring to smart contract transactions, which are more cumbersome for execution. I would say that I think that the two most controversial funds in the industry are Multicoin and you guys, in my opinion, and not controversial in the wrong way. Actually, it's wrong word, contrarian. And you guys, I started this conversation earlier about what is Supra's superpower is intellectual humility, meaning you show me something better and you're actually get that right, and we can pivot, because you just do that over and over again, you'll end up with a really wonderful, excellent result. But you can't do that if you're so stuck in your ways, right? So that is something I give you credit for. I give Cosmani credit for Multicoin. Is that you guys have a lot of courage, actually, and I got ahead of you. So I just want to say that as well.
Man, I really appreciate that. I was actually really looking forward to meeting you as well, because obviously I love what you're building here, and it's very impressive. And I think, and I'll speak to that principle a little bit. I have a background. My background actually is in philosophy, and actually is more in the humanities. And I think that background speaks to really trying to find truth, right? And I think the only way you really find the truth to things is to really open you up to those possibilities, and to really examine things, and to really question things in an independent way. I think that's what it really means to be a rational person. But it's actually very difficult to be a rational person because as human beings, we're so tribal, we're so emotional, and we're always fighting against ourselves in a way to follow truth. Instead, we want to follow the tribe, right? And instead, we want to follow what's the hype. Instead, we want to follow what's popular. And there's a pro and a con to that as part of our human nature. I wouldn't want to live in a society with emotionless humans either, but it's a challenge.
Absolutely. That's the thing. The human condition is very emotional being, and we evolved through a world of scarcity. And these emotions these chemical reactions within our bodies are a result of that scarcity that we evolved from. So yeah, please.
Yeah, and think about emotion. And I think this is the thing that I think a lot of I'm going to tie it back to this now. The thing I think a lot of the Ethereum developers, what they're missing, I think they're overly optimistic in terms of what the L2 scaling roadmap is going to look like, right? If you look at the top 20 layer twos, like every single one of them can steal user funds right now. Right? I think that's absolutely disgusting in terms of where we came from and what we can actually do. But I think this speaks to human nature. I think a lot of these engineers are too optimistic and maybe haven't looked at history as much as others have in terms of too optimistic thinking, oh no, they'll all do the right thing, or they'll all just adopt the same shared sequencer and we'll figure out interoperability and composability, or Coinbase will sacrifice their revenue in order to become decentralized, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's all nonsense. And it's because they're lacking the aspect of human nature. And this is why it's so important that when we build a blockchain, we build it from the get-go with the capacity that the world needs. Because otherwise what ends up happening is you get corrupt and like for-profit organizations and venture capitalists that end up rent-seeking over that. They try to profit off it. Because if you build on layer two, these layer twos are literally taking a cut that are going into private centralized companies. You can't do that with a layer one. It has to go to the validators and reinforce decentralization, right? It's going completely in the wrong route.
Yeah, okay. That's the thing. Blockchain is multidisciplinary, right? It's economics, it's computer science, it's cryptography, it's humanities, it's history, it's everything, actually.
Exactly.
And yeah, it is. And that's the thing we lack is that world historical perspective. And it's so important. Actually, I really like history, and I was a good student of history. And yeah, I'm lacking a little bit today, but I used to devour that information because, as folks on this spaces know, I use the term standing on the shoulders of giants. This is the simplest hack. It really is. It's just the simplest hack is towards the humility. So you got something actually better. And I'm not going to, and you've demonstrated this, and to not be tied down to by your dads and how that influence you. The rational economic kind of machine that is a human being is self-serving, right? Now there is an equilibrium and there is a game theory optimal state, which is actually cooperative. The way I look at this is that there are limits to both technological implementation and its limits, as well as awareness of getting the condition. Now, back to what you're saying, I just want to point out something that's ludicrous, okay? And I want to get this off my chest. And I do say this in the crime is, okay. How can you mentioned optimistic point of view. Okay, let's talk about optimism. Great, cool, good for you. And that's great. And that's a relic of Ethereum not scaling the layer one, these virtues. But I have a problem when the founders of optimism are talking about millions, not even thousands, millions of layer twos. It's a really bad already situation with 120 L2s. So much liquidity fragmentation. Every layer two on average has, just by default, on average 1% of the liquidity. And this is not great. And solving cross L2 interoperability is solvable, but atomic composable interoperability is not solvable. And why do I know this? And maybe you guys can prove me wrong, but I'm confident that I'm not wrong. And I know this because these are disparate nodes that have different states. And when I say state, they have different information. And therefore, they can't be composable. Trust me, I try to push our team to figure this out with our own agendas, right? And it turns out that at best, we're talking about what's called a 2K sooner. And then if you still have to settle on the layer 1 itself, we're talking about extreme latency. I'm talking about minutes. That might not sound like a lot to you, but, or not to you, just me, but the average listener, minutes of latency is massive. Like we really should be trying to get down to the point where it's sub-second, and if not microsecond, eventually. More or less, this Ethereum L2 is not healthy for Ethereum.
Oh yeah, it's economically parasitic, and I think it's actually almost corrupt. It's definitely a conflict of interest, a massive one. I think it's also a very perverted state of affairs if you really think about it. But that background that you have in history, that explains a lot. I suspect, in terms of your choice to create a blockchain that is monolithic / integrated. I think integrated is the better term, but if we keep changing the jargon, it's going to confuse people.
Let's just add one extra word to that, call it fully integrated. Take that to the maximum. Like we want to be the opposite of the modular pieces.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, if you can scale the layer 1, if you can acknowledge there are trade-offs, and we prove that we can scale the layer 1, like Supra does, like other sharded blockchains and parallelized blockchains also do, at that point, the layer 2 scaling thesis just completely falls apart. Like, really, you can't justify it from that engineering perspective. And that's the crazy thing. And what you're speaking to, what you're asking about before when it comes to creating millions of layer 2s, I'm guessing in the mind of the optimism guys, it's all under their optimism umbrella, right? I find this all terribly ironic, right? Because this idea of shared sequencing, this is what, and I'm saying this for the audience, obviously, this is to allow all of the layer 2s to basically communicate with each other, right? It's technically possible, right? But my position is that it's politically and socially not possible. I'm saying it's a social coordination problem, essentially. And it's so funny because, and tragic, I would say, like a tragic comedy, if you will, that the optimism guys are like, hey, we have a solution to the shared sequencer problem. It's our optimism super chain. And then the poly chain guys are like, hey, Polygon guys say, hey, we have a solution to the shared sequencer chain. It's our ag layer chain. And Arbitrum has their own solution, and then Justin Drake is trying to push the enshrined solution, and then you have the coffee guys with their solution. It just gets worse and worse, and it's just it is ridiculous.
No, I'm not trying to be too harsh on Ethereum because actually they're very brilliant, but they're misdirecting, in my humble opinion. Okay, so why did this come about in the first place? Let's look at the history of Ethereum: proof of work, proof of stake, sharded blockchain. Oh shit. We have Solana and AVAX. We have to pivot to, we have to scale this down. Oh, layer 2 sound like a viable option. Oh, crap. We forgot that layer 2, they're not composable. They can be interoperable. Sure, I believe that. But I definitely believe that they will not be composable. They will not have atomic layer 2 transactions, which means you have to constantly bridge, and which means you end up with this bizarre scenario where you have all these, you have this wallet with all these assets that are just like, okay, insert L2 name USDC, wrap USDC on this L2, or this wrap USDC.
That is the worst. That is just an unacceptable UX. My
unacceptable.
God.
That's the thing. Yeah. And I do want to touch upon the other thing that you mentioned, which was that kind of economic systems of rational players, none of them ultimately want to collaborate. You're not going to see Optimism and Arbitrum collaborate in that manner. They're just not going to give up their badge. So you actually create factions, and you're going to fracture their value, and you're going to break composability, and therefore you're going to break shares liquidity, which is like the whole point of blocking. This is the thing that you can't do anywhere else. I just want to remind the folks, and I have met Vitalik a few times over the years, San Francisco, Taipei, etc. And I do want to say the following. I'm pretty convinced he's an alien. So that's step one. Number two is actually he has, as a humanitarian, is yeah, absolute. This is a really big dive. He's probably better than me. I actually really trust his judgment. But I also know that humans can panic in the face of controversy. They had to pivot when Apex came out, when Solana came out. They had to pivot away because they knew that their implementation of 1,024 shards or 64 shards was going to take years. And they had to focus on going with proof of work, proof of stake. So the thing is, bottom line is, I want to be really kind here because, and not nice, I want to be kind. And that is, the truth is, none of us would be here without Ethereum. So we always got to pay homage for, give credit where credit's due. And that's something that, by the way, I have witnessed you, Justin, on numerous times do on Twitter. And that's something I truly respect.
Yeah, it is. And that's our lineage. And Bitcoin as well, for that matter. It's Bitcoin that started blockchain, that figured out how to do decentralized consensus and being able to do transactions. And I think it was Ethereum that, and there's a few steps in between where other blockchains, I think, figured out proof of stake mostly. But then Ethereum really figured out programmability. I think that was the next big milestone. And I think that's important to recognize. We were talking about history before. That will forever be the history of cryptocurrency. And I agree with you. I'm disappointed in Vitalik for not steering the ship in a different direction and interfering and seeing things differently, but I can't blame him too much. And he's obviously a great person and a brilliant person. I do admire him.
Yeah,
And
that's the other thing, Justin, is that suppose that you're in his position at that time, at that period of history. We don't have enough context to know the difference, and considering the information you had at that time, actually, I think is really brilliant. And to be completely frank, I don't think I would have made the right decisions at that time. This is why it's so important to study what came before us and to have that intellectual humility to understand that if I were there at that time in that position, maybe I would not have had the same outcome. I probably would not. No.
I think it's also a matter of like life experience and like background. What different fields had he studied? How deep was he into, say, political philosophy and history and things like that as well to understand these problems, or maybe even anthropology, something like that.
Well,
So yeah, I think there's a lot to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you a question because actually, just personally, I'm curious also. You mentioned you're focused on philosophy and history, but what is your childhood like? How did you end up becoming the Justin you are today?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. That's a long story, and I haven't shared much of it.
That's right. You
I
haven't,
think
but I've never heard this, and I want to know. I would love to know.
I will share parts of it. I think I will tactfully share more as my journey goes on in the cryptocurrency world. I think over time, I'm in a way sharing more parts of myself and opening up, but I'm doing it slowly as not to scare everyone away all at once. But in terms of my background, I have a Dutch father and a New Zealand mother. And I was born in the Netherlands.
In Netherlands or New Zealand? Sorry, it didn't come out clear to me.
Both actually. So I've got a Dutch father and a New Zealand mother. And I moved to New Zealand when I was like 10 years old. So I really spent my formative years in New Zealand. And my accent is a bit weird. It's hard to place for people, but it's a mixture of those two places, you could say. And my influences are here. And I moved back I'm 37 now, just for context. And I moved back when I was like 27. So I've been in the Netherlands for the last 10 years. But in the Netherlands, in New Zealand, I actually have a strong background in music. So I'm actually have a very strong creative side to me as well. But music, and also I studied political philosophy and history, as I mentioned here before.
So Justin, just a second, because I also have a background in music. I went to what's considered the Juilliard of South Korea for boarding school to study and play classical guitar. And I was left-handed, I was dyslexic, and I could not read the music, but I could replicate the play that, like, I asked my students and my classmates, hey, could you play this real quick? I know we have a test tomorrow. I need to memorize this. And I would just watch them play and I would replicate it. But I was never good at sheet music. And I want to say, though, that two things that really shaped my life is that I was left-handed and they forced me in South Korea to play right-handed. Like, you're a doofus, you play left-handed. You're a lefty, you are retarded. Yeah. But I would love to understand like your music background actually. And folks, everyone else in the call, if you want to hop off, go ahead. We're going to go into the human experience and how we got here. in this conversation.
We'll still touch on the scaling stuff a little bit too. But yeah, my music background, I started very early when I was doing classical composition and stuff like that when I was like 8 and 9. And then I got into piano, a lot of like piano, but specifically like jazz and blues. That's what I really got into, a lot of improvisation kind of stuff. And later on, I got into more modern forms of music, you could say. And actually, it's the first time I'm sharing this, and I'm just going to leave it at this. I am working on releasing an album maybe in the next year or so, but I would like to. It's the first time I've actually mentioned this publicly, at least as this persona. But I'm going to leave it at that and leave the rest just a complete mystery for now, and then decide what to do with that in the future. We can talk about that more privately since I'm vibing with you.
Fair enough, except we're going to force you to play at our next Supra Focus event, and you're going to be the headliner. And if you need a backup guitar, I can do after.
We will see about that, but I would love to do a keynote. That's what I'm more used to doing at crypto.
That's bro. Come on. You have to end up from Elton John. Come on, bro. No, it's good.
Yeah, I say start with the music and then you go into your tips.
I truly think the human experience is a human experience, right? Like if the audience can connect with you on a human experience, emotional level, and then they might actually listen to you more. And by the way, I believe your message is important. I think it's super lacking in this industry right now. And I don't want to hurt.
I appreciate that.
I was going to say, yes, absolutely. And actually, to be honest, I'm a huge Irishers. But as I said, I have like John Jones, my co-founder, we share messaging. You hear what you guys so ballsy, but we resonate with it. It's like a silent majority. We just had this with the Trump election, right? There's a silent, non-vocal majority that feels the frame. And myself, when I was at Permissionless a month ago, I was very nervous to talk about what Supra is doing. And at the same time, it was received very well because there is layer 2 fatigue. Oh, another layer 2 with real twists. And the thing is, people need new ideas executed well. And that's what Supra's doing all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think for me, and to speak a little bit more to my background, I think for me, in terms of being as a human being, to bring it back to that human level, and I think I really needed this in my life in terms of the things that I do. I make music, which is the emotional side, right? What I do in crypto, I think I view very much as the intellectual side, you could say, and what I do as an investor as well. That's what pays most of the bills. And I've also trained in the martial arts all my life as well. And I think that's more of the physical side. And I train every day and I keep myself very fit. And I think that helps keep me sharp as well. And I think that's in a nutshell to describe what it takes to become me.
So what I'm hearing is actually intense discipline.
Yeah. It's consistency. If you just consistently do something for a very long time, those hours really start to add up.
We do. And as a musician also, it takes intense discipline and consistency to actually get good enough to compose on your own. And I think your next album is probably going to be called Supra, right? But other than that, I'm looking forward to you. By the way, Supra, the word means above. It means above. And I think I truly do believe you elevate the industry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And that's what I like. Actually, when I was first got into crypto in like 2012, 2013, I was what you'd call a lurker. I wasn't out there making a lot of noise because I was like, I didn't feel like I could contribute to the conversation. I didn't feel like I had something to add when it was developers about computer science and these type of things. But then when the block size debates happened, that's when I saw that I was able to contribute more. When I really realized what they were debating was who decides. And I was like, hey, that's my background. Oh, and to speak to that, I studied political philosophy and history and a range of other subjects as well that I thought were very interesting. And I think that's what informs my view in cryptocurrency today. And it's part of what I'm able to contribute back. And I think that's what you're speaking to in terms of the unique perspective. And obviously having the courage, not to toot my own horn too much, but to be the contrarian. And also the way I monetize as I'm a contrarian investor. So I call out whenever I see a big mismatch between reality over here and then the truth, and then there's what the majority of people believe over there. But as an investor, obviously, that's also a huge opportunity, which is also what I think makes a lot of people excited about Supra. This is a cryptocurrency after all.
Justin, this has been really cool to understand your background. I think that the industry needs to be more like you in the discerning mind. Okay. No, it makes so much more sense to me to understand that you were basically a classical musician like me. By the way, I'm a bad musician, but I'm creative and I have the ability to create pre-game geared riffs. And but nonetheless, and I basically almost got kicked out of boarding school because I just want to play Nirvana.
Well, Nirvana is amazing.
Yeah,
So.
like I was like 12 years old. I was like, oh, I just want to play rock songs. Like, what is this other shit? Anyway,
So
I had
tell me more about yourself since we're in a sharing mood. Okay, I know you have the classical music background, and what came next for you?
I'll tell you what, basically, first of all, like you, I don't like to talk more about that part of myself because the human experience is actually very emotional. It's difficult. And there's a lot of responsibility to bring technology that fundamentally, from a first principles basis, should change the world. This is pretty clear. It's been clear since 2017 for me. And this has been the source of the inspiration, the way to persevere, is that this technology is going to change the world. It'll make the world better. It's not even going to be, okay, all this shit, meme coins, etc. Sure, I get it. Fine. It's not my thing. I wasn't really into the NFT thing, but I did understand my earphones just dropped out. I do understand that this is a form of digitizing IP. And there is a huge use case for that as well. For me personally, yeah, Justin, you're gonna have to find out later. I'm not gonna redeem myself like you did. This no, but Justin, I want you to know that people like me have respected you a lot, and I always wondered, what is this guy's background? How could he have these strong opinions in such a courageous manner?
I've
By
always
the way,
been go ahead.
no, please go.
I've always been a big fan of Socrates. I've always admired his story, and I think in my thinking I apply a lot of the what's known as the Socratic method, and it's actually very simple. You just ask why, and then you ask why again, and then you ask why again, and you ask why again, and like little children do this all the time, and it's actually brilliant because you really get to the bottom of things. And Socrates famously, he died for his beliefs because Socrates, he was challenging the status quo by just asking why and then just speaking the truth, right? And eventually there was a court case where they said he was corrupting the youth. And I think the main issue at the time, ironically, was he was promoting monotheism, actually, as opposed to saying there were many gods. That was one of the big issues, I think, that they had with him, according to Plato, at least. And then they said, okay, you have two choices. You can be exiled, you can leave this state, or you can drink hemlock. And hemlock was a poison. Right? And he chose to drink hemlock. He chose to drink the poison because he actually believed in the state and he believed in the rules and that court system. But so he died, right? He died for what he believed. And that's a tragic story. Personally, I would not have drank that poison, but I didn't have the same beliefs as Socrates did. But I think the principle still holds about having integrity about finding truth and speaking truth to power. And I've chosen to play that role, and I'm self-aware that's what I'm doing as a critic in cryptocurrency. And that's really what moves me. And I think people see the critical side. Actually, I just came back from a business trip in south of France. Actually, I was talking to institutional parties for 3 days straight. I think I did 20 plus pitches and trying to convince them to invest in my fund that invests directly into decentralized public cryptocurrencies. Right. So I've been advocating cryptocurrency for the last 4 days, but it's funny that my public role in cryptocurrency is more often the critic than the advocate. But in my heart, like as a cryptocurrency advocate, I think I would be a hypocrite. I would be like, I wouldn't sleep at night. My conscience would keep me up if I didn't speak out against that. I couldn't be an advocate and not speak out against all the BS that I see, all the nonsense. There's so much nonsense. It's incredible.
I agree. And that's why Supra has applied herself to strong top academic venues. So we get into the same academic venues as between Aptos, which we're big fans of as well, of course. Now, I do want to share something I haven't shared before, but actually I'm just recalling this, that I used to tell folks that if blockchain existed since 2000 AD, we wouldn't have so much genocide. You just know exactly what happened. You know what I mean? And then let's just move forward from here on out. We can actually have a record, an immutable record of what happened, like the Israel-Gaza strife. If we actually had a historical record, even the Bible, the King James version, right? It's a version of the Bible. So what if we had the original text? And I think moving forward, we just go forward with that. And yeah,
No, there's a profound change that comes with blockchain technology. Maybe history will no longer be written by the victors. And that story I just told you about, the only record we have of that story about Socrates is
Plato.
from Plato.
Plato, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who knows? Maybe he made the whole thing up.
that's the problem. You never know. And
Yeah.
one of the disciples
And
of Jesus
and
also, you never know what was the thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and this is the beautiful thing about what you're doing as well, right? What you're building here, like the blockchain, right? This layer one, right? Once you build this thing that has this massive capacity, that's what happened to Ethereum before they spoiled the opportunity, right? If you build this massive blockchain and then all these applications can freely interoperate on it, fully composable, the money Legos, and then that was the brilliant thing about Ethereum, right? Was that programmability. The developers didn't have to think of all the applications, just blossomed around the scalable blockchain. And then the scalable blockchain takes off and it becomes like this infrastructure for the world. It's really important to get that foundation right, because then you're setting up the incentives towards the public good. And that's what blockchains are really
That's right.
powerful at doing.
And also, truth be told, we do our job then. We race to the bottom. We make this as cheap as possible. We record everything. So as long as cryptography continues to be something that no nation state can break, and in this post-quantum cryptography out there, as long as we have that, then we have a very assured historical record. And that's ultimately that could have prevented so much loss of life. Because things are emotional, right? So I'm looking forward to the future. It's going to be amazing. I'm not trying to say that I necessarily support Donald Trump, although I do know for him. For our industry, but yeah, bottom line is that Joe, I said here crickets. Oh my God, you said that. But bottom line is that I do think a objective, perfectly neutral ledger of activity is going to solve so many future problems, and that's actually what the real long-term value is.
Yeah. And you're right when you say that as well in terms of saving lives. And I think those are like the long-term, really profound effects of blockchain that can really change the world. And that's part of what motivates me as well. When I saw what happened, I view Bitcoin as a failed experiment, and Ethereum has pretty much become a failed experiment at this point as well. There's a tragedy in that it delays mass adoption of this technology. It really it gives a bad impression. And that upsets me to some level, because it could have done so much more good in this time. We could have been so much further along.
So Justin, I am 39, you're 37, so I'm out in Korean culture, I'm young. Now I'll tell you what, let's talk about this again when we're 60. And the thing is that I think at that stage, okay, this has been recorded in the record. As long as X records you being record. I'm just kidding. But no, but I mean, we're living in the future. We're making the future happen. Guess what? Like our generation has been considered the lost generation. We didn't do enough or didn't really push the future forward. But we are. It's just behind the scenes. And it takes a lot of courage and tenacity and conviction to do it properly. And yes, for example, I should wrap up here soon, very soon, but most of the folks in the call are asking when is TG. I'm going to say, I ain't telling you that now, or won't. But it's very soon, sooner, closer than ever. And that's a fact. Now, that's like you said. We literally gave away our car. We literally deployed our Starkey wallet. We had incredible people like Sam Blackshear and Justin on this call to talk about the future of the technology. And we also have just entered probably the most bullish an area for blockchain and cryptocurrency ever. Not financial advice, by the way. So that said, as Supra is consisting of over 100 people, like these are 100 souls that have given and made major sacrifices, but it's going to get done. We're going to bring this to completion. And I always remind our team that TG is still the starting line. I do believe that decentralized networks are going to be bigger than we can imagine. And at the same time, I think it's existential that we get this right. And that means we have to rely on mathematics and computer science and the physics of the physics at large, and at the same time integrate the humanity, right?
Yeah, and this thing, it has to be multidisciplinary. As you also pointed out, it's combining all of those disciplines together that gives us the whole picture. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Absolutely. I'm really grateful that you ended with that. That is also our sentiment. If anyone wants to know what Super curious about, it's basically that it is multidisciplinary. It's computer science, distributed systems, it's humanities, it's economics, it's many different factions in one. And it's difficult, but if it was easy, we would have done it by now. Nonetheless, the future was bright as long as you persevere. So that's our message. It's basically super step and never stop.
That is beautiful. And and cryptocurrency is here. And Super is a beautiful example of it, of what we're capable of. And you're proving them all wrong. That's it. And to speak to being multidisciplinary, it's about, if you're only looking through the lens of one discipline, you can't see the forest among the trees, basically. It's a narrow point of view. By looking at the same question through the lens of multiple disciplines, you can really start to see the bigger picture. And I think that's really important to keep in mind.
Couldn't be said better. I think we can wrap it up right now. I want to say so much thank you for joining us. I want you to know, Justin,
Thank you.
that
Real pleasure.
you are recognized as a very courageous human being, and you are pushing the industry forward. And we may not always agree on everything. Okay, fair enough. Nonetheless, we're by and large the same camp, and we just have to focus on fundamentals, first principles, right? And
That's right.
we'll eventually all converge on the same thing. And I think Supra has a vertically integrated singular layer one that has multi-game support. I just look at this as a generalized compute platform, right? It's okay. Who cares what virtual language, Linux or Windows or VM or Soren or VM or MovieM, etc., right? Anyways, thank you everyone for showing up and being with us throughout this journey. I know you guys want the answer. I get on my phone's blowing up on TG about, you didn't say TG, the exact day, and so I'm going to tell you. I don't care. It's soon, Warren, and we're going to do it at the right moment that we can. There's many variables at play. Of course I care. Of course you care. I know I shouldn't have said that. But bottom line is, what is my personal responsibility? My personal responsibility is to deliver it into the market and to enter the race. Remember, TG exchange listing is just the starting line. And in the end, yeah, anyways, Justin, I just want to wrap up and say it's been a pleasure. I've been curious about your background for so long, and please have the final word and we'll log off here.
Thank you. No, thank you. I really appreciate it. And when you guys invited me on, I was excited. I was excited to meet you, because the way you put this as well, we are all comrades in the cause. And that brings us together. When I first joined the Bitcoin community in 2013, there was a sense of community there. There was a sense of coming together, I think, like desperate souls that ended up coming to a lot of the same conclusions about the world and wanted to change things in particular ways. And cryptocurrency brought them together. And I think that's a really beautiful thing as well, along with the material changes.
That was eloquent, amazing. We agree. We love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
It's beautiful, man.
Cheers.
Thank you. Peace.
Wow. What a way to wrap it up. Wow. Basically, what we've just heard, folks, is what Supra is all about. And really, you can hear the inspiration for Supra's desire to build super dApps, because one could say, the super app of all. The cosmos, the nature of the universe, all rolled into the ethos of this L1 and this network. That was incredible. Thank you so much to Justin Bond for joining us. I see he's logged off. Josh is also logged off. He has to join a Binance live stream. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been such a fantastic mega space. It has been a true experience. We've had some of the most incredible minds in this industry. And I think we all just need to take a breather right now, just to soak in what we've just heard. A beautiful conversation about everything from politics to philosophy to economics to music, art, and of course, technology, and almost the next phase of human evolution. That's what Web3 truly is, in my opinion. It's contributing to the next phase of human evolution. Wow, what a day it's been. John, that was a long stretch, and I think we can call this a success.
I think we can. I have to say, it's like in Taiwan, it's 4 a.m. and so it's very late.
Wow.
And for Josh, he did a lot of speaking, but I have to say that a lot of what we heard gave me a lot of energy. I was very inspired. I was not planning on staying up. I didn't have to speak towards the end, but I was very inspired. Really great talks, a lot of intellectual curiosity and humility and just camaraderie, and it was great. And there were a few hot takes during the space, but just in general, I was surprised that how interested I was to stay up this late. It was really great. And thank you for everyone, the speakers. Thank you to everyone that kind of stuck on. And hopefully, I really hope that some of the people that attended today, that they could have the same kind of energy and excitement that I had. And because it was really great. It was really a success. Thanks, James, for helping moderate and being a host. And thank you for the other moderators that joined. Thank you, everyone. This has been great.
We appreciate how you've supported us. And to echo what Josh said, TGE is around the corner, and don't worry. Just don't stress. Don't worry. It's coming. There is a lot that goes into making sure it works, that it's legally within all the right compliance frameworks, and of course, that technically it is a smooth launch. So thank you for your support, everyone.